All right, test one, two. Let's see if the audio is working here. That's the first thing I like to do. I like to check the audio because sometimes you rant for like 2 hours and there's no audio. This is gonna be like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Um, Let me see here. Uh, so I like to play it on my phone so I can see how it looks. Oh, the audio is working. So, all right. So for some reason, it's always delayed. Like when I'm looking at here and when I say something, it's always delayed. But we are gonna go ahead and get started. I was gonna film this as a regular video, but I think a live stream is a lot better. If anyone is watching, you can ask questions, and I'm gonna answer those at the end of the video. And this is also gonna be on the Spotify podcast channel or website. I don't know, but it's gonna be on Spotify. The link is gonna be in the description below. So if you just want to listen to this, but it's gonna be after this is done. But today I wanted to talk about today I wanted to talk about things you should never ever say or do when it comes to an interview, right? So I just did a couple of interviews last week, and this kind of like reminded me of those things. I had to go back through my notes, through like some of the research I've done in the past on how to perform really well in an interview, and I wanted to make this video. So this is not going to be in any type of order. This is just a bunch of things that I just put together, and there's obviously way more things that you should not do or you should not say than what I have on this list. But I think this is what popped up in my head when I was doing the interviews and things like that. Okay. All right. So the first thing I have here is going to be criticizing your previous employer. So sometimes if you are, I'm gonna give you a solid example, right? If you are working at a job and you're looking to, apply to a different company, which happens a lot, and I recommend doing that at least once a year, even if you're happy, because it helps you kind of like know your market value, right? So if you're getting paid $80,000 a year and you apply to a different job and they offer you $100,000 a year, then your market value is $100,000 a year. The $80,000 you're getting paid is under the market value, right? So you can use that to negotiate a higher salary. So that's why I recommend, applying. Even if you're so happy at your job, you have to apply to different jobs like once a year, once every couple of years, just to get a good market value to see if the company you're working at actually values you at the market value. But putting that aside, my point is sometimes employers will ask, so why do you want to leave why are you looking to leave the company that you're working at right now? So this is a form of asking like, what's wrong with your previous employer? Like what is wrong with your current job right now? So a lot of people like to, bash the previous employer. They'll say things like, well, I don't really get along with the manager, or I don't really like the company culture or something like that, something negative, right? So that is what you're not supposed to say. You're never supposed to say anything negative because put yourself in the potential employer's shoes, right? The person that's interviewing you. They hear you say the managers are horrible, the company culture is horrible, this and that. They are thinking, well, what's going to happen when this person finally leaves us? What are they going to tell their next employer about us, right? And they can use that conversation to judge what you might potentially say. So you always want to say nice things, right? Even though there's negative things, obviously there's going to be negative things. Don't say them, right? So one of my favorite things to say is I just want to gain a diverse, set of skills, right? So if I was working as a financial analyst and, I'm applying to an accounting position and they're asking me, well, why are you leaving this job, And I'll tell them I'm looking to gain, a diverse set of skills, right? Already have the finance experience. I want to explore accounting, or sometimes you can tell them, you're looking to grow in if you're in finance, maybe you're doing something different from what you're doing right now. You're just looking to grow in the industry. You're looking to try all the different options that are in the industry. So you want to avoid saying negative things about your employer, your job, or some of the stuff you have to do. You can't say things like they gave me too much work, right? You can't say that. So never, never, ever criticize your previous employer, because the person that's interviewing you is they're putting themselves in your previous employer's shoes, saying, well, when they leave, are they gonna say horrible things about us just to get hired at the next job? So yeah, so they're kind of like asking, like, what will you say about us? But that's the first thing. The second thing is going to be related to, when you're actually going through the interview process, which is, being the first one to bring up compensation, pretty much how much you're going to get paid. So that is one of the things you want to avoid, being the first one to say, how much are you going to pay me, especially during the first interview, right? And I'll tell you why this is a horrible idea. Now, think about this. If you were going on a date with a girl, and the first thing she asks you is, how much money do you have? How much are you willing to spend? Are we gonna go to the most expensive steakhouse, right? It's just like it gives you a certain view on the person that's asking that. So that's what you want to avoid. Think about it that way. And you might be asking, well, if I can't ask that, what if they never bring it up, right? You have to wait for them to bring it up. But if they never do, that's okay too, because you don't have the job yet, right? So the first interview is kind of like to get to know you. And sometimes, yeah, they'll bring it up. They'll ask you, how much were you expecting, right? How much are you aiming for? And you give them a range and things like that, right? They brought it up and you gave them your range because you're always prepared. So if they don't bring it up, just forget it. But if they don't bring it up, you don't need to be worried, thinking that they're never going to bring it up again. They are going to bring it up when you get the offer, right? Sometimes you probably not even, well, sometimes you might not even get the offer. So you never get to that point, right? But when you get the offer, they have to tell you, the benefits and pay and things like that. They have to tell you. You have to know that. So it's gonna happen. So you want to avoid, being the first one to bring up compensation in the first interview, or even second. Some jobs make you do like 5 different interviews, and when you actually get the offer at the end, then they'll tell you, hey, this is, what do you expect? And then you negotiate from there on. So that was the second point. The third one is going to be, this is a question that I used to struggle with a lot. And when they ask you something like, what is your weakness, right? Or it's usually like, tell me three, or like, tell me your strengths and weaknesses, right? It's easy to say things that you're good at doing, right? Which is going to be the strength. But when it comes to the weaknesses, it's kind of hard. So what a lot of people like to do is they like to turn positive on a strengths into weaknesses. So like, I'm too perfect. I'm a perfectionist. I enjoy working too much. I enjoy showing up to work early. Never, ever, ever do that. Those are generic answers that everyone always says. So you want to avoid, saying things like that. Things like, I'm too perfect, don't say that. So one of my go-to, just a little tip of something that I was not good at, is public speaking, right? So how you should frame this is going to be based on you stating the problem, right? Like, what is your weakness? My weakness is, public speaking. I've always been, shy, or I get nervous or things like that. And then you don't want to leave it at that. You want to add how are you working to improve on that weakness, right? Because you just don't want to say, this is my weakness, and end it there, right? You want to follow up with how you are currently working on fixing that weakness, right? So for me, when I say public speaking, I say, I joined an organization. That's when I was in college. I joined in an organization, and I became the VP of finance. So every Friday, I have to stand up in front of the entire organization, and I present the budget, and I talk about how much we're saving, how much you plan on spending on events and things like that, right? So this shows that, yes, your weakness is public speaking, but you're doing something about it, right? So you just don't want to say, this is my weakness, but The worst thing you could ever do is turn a strength into a weakness by saying I'm too perfect. I'm a perfectionist. Never, never, ever do that. All right. So the second one is related to, the second one. This is asking like, how much does this job pay, right? You'd be surprised. There are people, I've had the opportunity to interview people in my past jobs, and you'd be surprised because in this question, like I understand because sometimes people are going through 10 interviews a day, right? Because they're looking, they're in the process of applying for a job and they don't want to waste their time. Maybe they uh, you know canceled another interview in order to do this one because the times are conflicting, and they want to get through with it fast, right? Because sometimes they're not going to tell you how much they want to pay you until the end or until the second interview. But in order to eliminate that, a lot of people will ask, how much does this job pay? Like off the bat, like how much does this job pay? And even though it's convenient for you, you have to put yourself in the employer's shoes. That if that's the first thing if that's the first thing you ask, then it's just gonna turn them off, right? They're gonna be like, okay, well, this is gonna be a short interview, like and that's the end of it. So even though it's gonna be convenient for you, put yourself in the employer's shoes because they might have been going through 100 other people, right? So if that's the first thing, if that's your first impression, that doesn't look good on you. All right, so the next one is gonna be something like people asking questions like how soon do you promote employees, right? During an interview, right? This shows a couple things, right? You're in an interview, and at the end of the interview they say, do you have any questions for us? And you say, how soon do you promote employees? Just think about what tone that statement sets, right? What it makes you look like it's a money grab for you, even though it is for me. I'm telling you, I love working, but I want to get paid more money. Right? So that's a fair question, but you have to put yourself once again in the employer's shoes. If you're asking questions like that show that you only care about the money. I mean, they know that you care about the money, but you don't show it, at least. Don't show it, like, don't display it like that. Um, but yeah, so don't ask how much does this job pay. So even though you still want to know, I'll give you a question I always ask. A question like, what does it take for someone to be a successful employee, right? When you ask a question like that, that allows the employer or the person that's interviewing you to talk about as much as they want. And oftentimes I've had employers say, they go from, you need to work really hard, or most successful employees that get promoted to this and that. They go into all of that by if you just ask that question. So you let them bring it up. You don't bring that up like, how soon am I going to get promoted, right? You can ask, what does it take to be a successful employee, right? Sometimes they won't even bring up, people getting promoted. So it's gonna be up to them to bring up whatever it takes for someone to get promoted. All right, so this leads me into my next one, which is whenever they ask you, you finish the interview, well, do you have any questions for us? Right? A lot of people are always like, oh no, I have no questions. You're always supposed to have questions. You're always supposed to have questions, right? Some questions are too generic, right? But at least have three questions ready. Two is fine, but three is good. Three is good. Three questions is good. It's gonna help you so much, right? First thing, if you want to come up with questions that are gonna make you stand out, go on the company website, right? Read maybe the mission statement or some of the stuff they do, the about us page, how long has the company been around, and things like that. And you can ask those questions. So whenever it's time for you to ask questions, you can say, "Oh, I was looking on the website, I was researching on the website, and I saw that you guys provide this service. Do you guys have a department that does it, or is it something like that? Something that shows that you actually did research, right? You're not just job hopping and hoping to get the most paying job. Something that shows that you did research." And one of the things I like to do for my last question, if I have two questions, the first one is going to be a question that shows that I actually did research on the company, right? And the second question, it'll be something like, I'll make it more personal, right? Because the thing about interviews, they're like psychology, right? The more an interviewer likes you, the more likely you're gonna get the job, right? So I like to end my interviews on like a good note, right? So it doesn't feel like it feels like a conversation, not like a back and forth, like in an interrogation. So for my second and third question, I make those questions personal, right? I'll ask something like, "Oh, actually, I was looking on your LinkedIn and I saw that you've been at the company for 20 years. Like, how do you enjoy it, or what changes have you seen based on technology and things like that, and how do you get used to it? Something that shows that it's personal to the person that's interviewing you, right? Because you looked them up on LinkedIn, and also it shows that you did your research. Now for the last question, I'll ask, I'll even do like another personal question as well, but you can't make it too personal. Like, how many kids do you have? Right? You can't ask that. You can ask something like, one of the good ones is, what do you do when you're not working, right? Because sometimes, that's when they start talking about their dogs, how they like to go fishing, how they like to, and then it becomes a conversation, right? And when you end, you're gonna, leave on a good note to where they're gonna be like, "Oh, I like that person." They actually asked me, this, because sometimes you have to think about these people that are interviewing. They're going through like 20 people in a day, right? They just want to get it over with. They're tired. It's repetitive. So when you bring something different like that, then you actually have competitive advantage over other people as well. So you should always have follow-up questions at the end of the interview, and you should always the first question needs to be technical, that shows that you did your research about the company. The second, about the person. You can look them up on LinkedIn, right? It's normal. It's not gonna be like you were stalking them, right? Because it's LinkedIn, and don't ask questions like, how many kids do you have, or are you married, or don't ask those questions. And lastly, do something more fun. Like, what do you enjoy doing outside of work, right? Um, those are great questions. Also, moving on to the next one here, which is, yeah. So what a lot of people like to do, impatient people, they like to ask for feedback at the end of the interview. They're like, "So how did I do? Am I gonna get the job? What are my chances of getting the job?" That is horrible. Like I said before, when it's interview season, right? If they're probably interviewing other, like, two other people, three other people, right? And they're probably tired, and they're probably glad that the interview is over. So when it's over and you ask, "How did I do?" They need time to go back and think about it, maybe sleep on it, or maybe talk to the department about it and make the decision. So when you do that, you're kind of like rushing the person, and they're not always gonna give you. It's either they're gonna lie to you, or they're gonna tell you straight up that we need time to, like something like that. So you always want to avoid doing that. Asking for feedback right at the end of the interview. Give them a day or two. If you don't hear back from them in like 2 days or maybe a week or so, I would say that at most a week. That's when you can send up a follow up email. Just wanted to follow up on, is there anything you need from me, something like that. Okay. All right. So the next one is gonna be a statement that a lot of people say, "I don't know." You should always know. You should never, ever, 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 ever say, "I don't know." And this is because if you look at an interview process, right, you're selling your services, right? You're selling your services. So you think of a salesman that's selling something like speakers, right? Let's say you walk to someone's door and you ask them, you knock on the door, they open the door. Well, we're selling speakers, blah, blah, blah. This is and that. And let's say the person is actually interested, but they want to know more about the specific speaker that you're selling. Now they're gonna ask questions. So how loud does it get? Can I connect? Does it connect to Bluetooth? Does it do this? Does it do this? Can I put it in the shower? Can I do this with it? Now, once you say you don't know, it looks like you don't know your product, so you should not be selling something you don't know. So in an interview, when you get asked a question that you don't know the answer to, one of the things that I do, let's say they ask me something like a very like like a question that I was not expecting, but I have to think about it. One of the things I do is rephrase the question, right? If they say something like, let's say like, tell me your weaknesses, and I hadn't thought about it, right? I would say, you can say something like, one of them, you can say something like, could you repeat the question, right? To make them say it again while you get time to think, or you can just rephrase the question however you want to rephrase it, back to them, be like, oh, my weaknesses, something like that. But you should always be prepared when it comes to the weakness. I'm talking more about some specific some questions that require you to think, but you need a second to think about those. And sometimes it's okay to say that. Let me get a second to think about this. Let me get a second to think about this question. Um, so let's see here. We're gonna go on to the next one. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat, and I'll look at them at the end of this, and I'll answer all of those. So the next one is can I work from home? So this is a common one that a lot of people are doing right now, because before you even apply to a job, I'm pretty sure if you look on LinkedIn, if you look on if you're applying on any job website, it tells you if it's a work from home or if it's a hybrid, where sometimes you work from home, sometimes you work from the office. It tells you that. So the fact that you go to an interview and you ask if you can work from home, it shows that you were just applying to jobs blindly, and that's not something that people want to hire someone who's just applying to jobs blindly, just to get a job. So yeah, never ask, can I work from home? Do your research before. It's always going to be listed on the job listing, unless you're applying to sketchy jobs that that don't, really say, specify what you're going to be doing. Or I think I have a video on some of the jobs that you should never ever apply to. I think I'm going to make another one. Um, all right, so now I have the last question here, which is, so what exactly do you guys do? So this goes back to my question of doing your research before the interview, right? So if you are in an interview and you ask, what exactly do you guys do here? Yeah, sometimes they ask you like, do you know what we do? Like something like that. I've seen this a lot when you apply to, companies that aren't popular. Like at Google, like they're not gonna ask you, do you know what we do here? Maybe they might ask you for that specific department. But if you're applying to mid-sized companies, to smaller companies, they usually say, are you familiar with what we do? Or, or do you want me to explain it? So you want to avoid just saying explaining or even asking what exactly do you guys do here. You want to go on the website the night before, look at get have an idea of what they do. You don't have to understand the entire business model or the processes that they have. You don't have to do all that. You just have to have an understanding of what they do. So when they ask, do you have an idea of what we do? You can say, yeah, I was researching on the website actually, and I saw that you guys provide services to clients that work for the government and things like that. But I would like to know, have your perspective on it, or I would like to know more about it. And then, it shows that you did your research. You're not just blindly applying to jobs. And the biggest tip that I'll give you guys is employers are, guarding against people that, randomly apply to jobs and that are always ready to leave at the next opportunity, right? Or the next job, simply because it takes money to, I'm not saying you should never do that. I'm just giving you a different perspective. And to hire someone, it costs a lot of money, to go through training, to go through, to provide maybe supplies. Maybe they have to build a station for you to work, and then they have to put you in there, do the background check. It costs money. They have to put you in the HR system. It takes a lot of money to hire a new employee, and they've invested all that into you. So they're always trying to weed out people that are likely to leave within a year, 2 years, or something like that, right? Because think about it, if you're investing in something, you kind of like want it to last longer if you're investing a lot of money into it. So these points that I brought up, these are things that, some of the things actually that make you look like, you're ready to leave the next day if you get another job. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at the chat here. All right, so we have a super chat from Danny J. I think. Let me know if I say that wrong. That's actually my first super chat ever. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right, so we have a question in here. It says, what if they ask, why do you want to leave your job when I'm applying for a similar same job? What do I answer? So that's a great question, actually. I think it was about a year ago when I was trying to get a true market value of how much I was supposed to be getting paid. I applied to a job that was very similar to what I had. It was pretty much the same position, right? And then they asked me, do you mind me asking why are you planning on leaving, or what's making you leave? And there isn't a correct answer, but I can show you how to navigate that answer. So what I said was, I'm trying to think of what I said as I'm speaking right now. I told them that I was looking to expand my knowledge, right? So I told them exactly what I was doing, like the job responsibilities I was doing, and I told them that I feel like another job that or another company that has a different process of doing this, that has it was pretty much like different process of doing this would really help me sharpen my skills, right? You say something like that to where you're not down talking your current job or your company or your managers or things like that. You don't want to downplay that. You just want to make it be yours, right? Don't try to pass the blame on anybody. So for me, I said, I really, really love this job. I enjoy this. I'm just looking to expand my skills, even though it's the same job. I want to see different processes of doing this, and things like that. So that's a good way to kind of like navigate and avoid having to down talk anyone. So another question here from Jay says, do a video on your portfolio. Actually, I was gonna do one last week, I think, but then the market just is horrible right now. That if I showed you my portfolio, you'd think I was a horrible investor. But that video is coming soon, actually. Probably I'll say next month. We're in February right now, so sometime in February or March, I should be doing a video on my portfolio. I'll do on my the portfolio that I actually trade, or trade stocks and things like that. Um, but yeah, so that is pretty much it. Unless anyone has anything else, any questions, I'm gonna post this on the channel. I'll probably, chop it up and post it as different because a lot of people don't want to watch videos that are this long. But yeah, so that is pretty much it for the stream. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you, Jay, for the super chat, my first one ever. Thank you so much for that. But I'll catch you guys on the next video. I think it might be a video next week, maybe, most likely. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning